Hello, I'm Don Fineberg, your Opera Insight 2022 presenter. And there, I've said it. I've introduced myself, or at least one of myselves, the one I show to others. You know, like Joe Friday used to say on Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Well, my name is Don Fineberg, and what I do, opera presenter. It's the face that I show the world. But there are parts of the self buried more deeply than personal awareness. It's in our unconscious, and it's represented in our archetypes. Today, we will explore just such an archetype, an unconscious mental construction that's actually a part of every one of us, and at the core of the main character in this opera, M. Butterfly. Which archetype, you say? Well, we'll get to that. It's revealed in the climax of the opera. But I will say at the outset, this opera is one of the most sophisticated psychological operas ever presented in Opera Insight, both how it's presented and in the content of what is presented. We'll get to all that later. In opera, we've become accustomed to characters on stage sharing their inner thoughts aloud. You know what they're consciously thinking. Yet, in M. Butterfly, we get to see not only a character's conscious inner thoughts, but also the character's unconscious archetype as it is acted and sung in the climax of the narrative. Wow, that's a mouthful, or should I say a mindful. And we will get to all of that. And with that said, let's proceed to the opera. The opera was inspired by a true story of atypical love, woven together with a reimagining of Puccini's operatic masterpiece, Madame Butterfly. M. Butterfly is a new opera. It's based on David Henry Hwang's award-winning play of the same name. You know, I'm always suspicious of that vague award-winning label. Just this year, we were stopped at a traffic light in a small town in Wyoming, which I would say is in the middle of nowhere, but to be fair, it was in the middle of Wyoming. And there was this old roadside diner with a sign advertising award-winning pancakes. The light turned green just in time for me to forego the idea of parking, walking in there and asking, well, what award exactly did these pancakes win in the middle of Wyoming? Best pancakes in the West? Maybe best pancakes in the state? Maybe the award was for runner-up for best pancakes in town, and believe me, it was a very small town. Well, we'll never know about those pancakes, but we do know about the award-winning play M. Butterfly. It was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize and won the Tony that year for Best Play and the Drama Desk Award for Outstanding New Play, among many other accolades. In any case, Henry David Hwang's also wrote the libretto for this opera. You might ask, with such a successful Broadway play, why mess with success and write an opera? Well, basically, an opera allows for a fuller interpretation of the subject. The spectacle features music that connects us with an emotional depth and nuance in the story. The opera pushes a boundary and is relevant to today as it was when that story was first written in the late 1980s. In short, I anticipate as an opera, M. Butterfly will be equally and deservingly award-winning. The libretto is written by Henry David Hwang, and the music is composed by Huang Ro. You may remember Santa Fe's Opera's successful 2014 North American premiere of Huang Ro's opera, Dr. Sun Yat-sen. And we are especially lucky to have James Robinson, who directed Dr. Sun Yat-sen, returning to direct M. Butterfly. We are overjoyed to have this core of the creative team back in Santa Fe. Now, the action of M. Butterfly takes place in China and France, but you'll be happy to hear it is sung in English with an engaging staging and projections. It is quickly paced, and although it's divided into 3 acts, in reality, what is presented is 28 scenes in 14 different locations in a time frame from 1964 to 1986. Like I said before, this story changes scenes at a very fast pace. So without a moment to lose, let's begin to tell it. The opera starts near where it ends, May 11th, 1986. A projection states, NYT headline, France jails 2 in odd case of espionage. One of those 2, René Gallimard, is a functionary in the diplomatic corps. He narrates the story. Actually, as the opera unfolds in this rapidly changing scene, we in the audience start to develop a familiar sense. Not so much with the content of the story, but rather how it's being told. How does it happen? It's being told much like the human memory and imagination actually function, in short episodes, jumping from time to time and place to place. If you will pay attention for a moment to your own free-floating thoughts, you will confirm that this is true. So my advice for this opera, don't overthink it, experience it. This opera presents itself the way your mind actually works, jumping through time and place. And where's the first place this opera jumped? It opens at a Paris party scene. They are toasting and mocking, really, Gallimard. He found a, quote, pretty young thing, but they cannot believe, quote, he never touched her, even as he was being seduced. They toast, Vive la différence. I mean, literally, that's their toast. The scene then shifts to Gallimard, daydreaming in his jail cell. Reimagine the people of Paris all making fun of him, the talk of the town. He then answers that, quote, I've been loved by the perfect woman. Like so many incarcerated people, he's left alone with his imaginings and talking to himself. At this point, the music references Puccini's Madame Butterfly. Now I want to point out something. You need not know anything about Puccini's opera to fully appreciate this opera. Now, if you're familiar with Madame Butterfly, you'll recognize some musical motives. Some of those references brilliantly echo the original opera, but with some musical reversals. Wang Ro commented that these would be very hard to pick out, but here's a hint. M. Butterfly's music often reflects the score of Madame Butterfly, but with reversals. Yes, reversals. Enough said. That's your hint. It'll all be explained later. So, back to the story. It moves to 1964. France is opening its embassy in Maoist China, the first Western embassy since Mao erected the so-called bamboo curtain to keep out Western imperialist influences. The staff complains of being stuck there in boring Beijing. Gallimard explains that it was the night he first saw the love of his life, Song Liling. We realize we are now in his head, in his memory. She is performing and dressed to no one's surprise as Madame Butterfly, Puccini music playing in the opera's most famous aria, Une Belle Dee. Gallimard explains the story of Madame Butterfly and how he identified with the girl's suffering and longed to rescue her and make her happy. He introduces himself to Song, admires her singing, and expresses how he embraced this story of love and sacrifice. Now, at this point, we sense in the music that we're actually telling a different story. Something's not quite right. And then Song points out that this is his fantasy, a favorite cultural fantasy of, quote, the submissive Oriental woman who dies for the love of an abandoning white man. As was the case with the original Butterfly and her beloved Pinkerton. Song invites him to see the real Butterfly in the Chinese theater. She also admits to a mutuality of their fascination. He remembers coming to see her in the Chinese opera, The Butterfly Lovers. In the repartee, she invites him up to her apartment. Now, Another memory comes, or perhaps an imagining. This time it's with a friend, Mark, who describes Gallimard's shy, pimply adolescence and his lack of success with women. Now, Mark is a fantasy within a memory of Gallimard's experience. Now, think about it. Did Mark even really exist? And if he did, why would this suave, athletic adolescent befriend the shy, dorky kid Gallimard? Well, just like in the opening scene, the party in Paris, this was imagined by Gallimard. This conjured imagery, comments of a childhood friend that could not possibly be a memory because Mark is commenting on a developing relationship with Song in Gallimard's adulthood. Gallimard tries to stay away, but Song beckons him to return to the Chinese opera. Again, he cannot resist. Just when he thinks all is lost, when there's a shakeup at the embassy, Gallimard gets promoted to vice consul. And remember, Beijing was described as this gray, boring place. Maybe Gallimard was the only one that could get to stay. But in any case, while the others may have been eager to get back to France, Gallimard got this promotion. The scene shifts to Song's flat. Gallimard shows up with his exciting news. He wants Song to be, quote, my little butterfly. He wants her. No more secrets, he says. And with a declaration of love, they sing, East can meet West, two souls in the dark, each seeing the other as the other yearns to be seen. Gallimard sees Song as the perfect woman. But is this how Song yearns to be seen? Clearly, Song acts the part. But is it how Song really wants to be seen? Or again, is this Gallimard's fantasy? Act 2 opens, as did Act 1, with guests at a party in Paris mocking Gallimard for his naivete or stupidity. And we are privy to the inner critical voice in the narrator's head. The scene shifts to intimacy in Song's apartment and the first pillow talk, implying real espionage. Yes, spying, like in the original projection that began the opera. And then back to the embassy, where Gallimard opines, quote, Orientals will always submit to the greater force regarding American troops in Vietnam, and later tell the Americans to stay the course. Gallimard then knows the truth of what will happen. He imagines in his slavish, conscious notion that there is pictured by Song with the Maoist government, there with her spy handler, Chin, who tells her in no uncertain terms, comrade, don't forget, there's no homosexuality in China, to which Song replies, I do not know what you mean. Bravo, or should I say brava, no homosexuality means Song is a she and not a he. Now, the truth inevitably comes out on the political front. The Vietnam War is going badly for the Americans, and Gallimard's intelligence about the submissive Orientals has proven worthless. He imagines he was demoted because of this. Now again, think about it. The whole policy about Vietnam, formulated by President Johnson, was being conducted because of the notion of the Oriental mind by a low-level bureaucrat at the French embassy in the Chinese capital. The story increasingly looks like Gallimard's fantasized memory. Now, the scene shifts again to Song's apartment. Emotionally, we sense that this movement towards the truth coming out has shifted from the global to the personal. Gallimard insists on seeing her naked. He says, I'm so sick of inscrutable Orientals. Who are you? Take off those robes. I'm ordering you. Song replies, it's all I ever wanted, for you to see me as I am. So come strip me. Whatever happens, you have willed it. Our love is now in your hands. From a psychological viewpoint, this is a crucial juncture. The opportunity to choose a painful reality over an idealized fantasy. Gallimard ponders, did I not undress her because I knew somewhere deep down what I would find? Happiness is so rare, our mind can turn somersaults to protect it. This is sort of reminiscent of that song by Simon and Garfunkel, The Boxer, that has the line, people hear what they want to hear and disregard the rest. And by the way, don't jump to the conclusion, obvious it may seem, that Gallimard fears finding out that Song is not a woman. He could fear a shattering of his idealization of her as the perfect woman, an idea based on the encounters in the pitch darkness with the shy and modest Asian lover. The vulnerable one he so desperately wanted to protect from the first time he saw her perform in Madame Butterfly. If he forced her to disrobe, he would be no better than the abusive Pinkerton, and in fact, this understanding overtakes him. Gallimard concludes this memory. He says, then I saw Pinkerton stalking towards his butterfly to reward her love with his wicked hands and cruelty. And by the time I reached her, Pinkerton had vanished from my heart to be replaced by something new, something unnatural, something very close to love. At this pivotal moment in the opera, we see the connection in Gallimard's mind between his sense of himself and its relationship to Pinkerton and Cho-Cho-san. Something inside him is transforming. He is converting the reality of his situation to complete commitment to his fantasy. He changes course. Gallimard then tenderly asks for forgiveness, proposes marriage. Song, following this declaration, announces that she's pregnant. Now, this exchange reveals something essential about avoiding the truth. Once you abandon a truth, and 2 + 2 no longer equal 4, you can pick any number you want. And to bolster a delusion, anything is possible, including Song being pregnant and having a baby. The next memory flashes ahead. 7 months have passed, and Song enters with the baby provided by the communists, singing as did Cho-Cho-san, Puccini's Butterfly, singing of her son, with blue eyes and golden hair. Gallimard remembers his adoption of his hope for the union of East and West, but a chorus of Revolutionary Guard come in, and they sing as they rush on stage. Gallimard finds him caught up in the mob and their enthusiasm, but the words of the chorus reflect the political shift that echoes in the shift of the relationship between Gallimard and Song. The East is rising. The East is rising. There will be a lot to talk about during intermission, but hurry back because a lot happens in Act 3. It opens 10 years later. Gallimard imagines how Song, who loves him, could have agreed to come to France to spy. Song was forced to spy to avoid being sent to the labor camps to die. Song's aria references the love of a butterfly, crawling like a caterpillar, confined in the cocoon, fluttering as a butterfly, and then dying. These parallel Gallimard's experience, crawling around in life like a boring bureaucrat, getting confined in jail. And where does he go? Song goes to France, where a reunion happens as expressed by a beautiful love duet. This ideal moment is interrupted in Gallimard's apartment, where agents arrive to arrest him for spying. During the arrest, Gallimard's informed that Song is in fact Monsieur Song Lily, a man, Monsieur as represented in the capital M of M Butterfly. And we in the audience watch as Song changes from her woman's clothing into a man's suit. In French court, Song tells the story of the espionage, and the judge wants to know, did Gallimard know that Song was a man? Song defers, saying it was never asked. This corresponds to the denial on Gallimard's part, that he did not know or want to know. Gallimard next describes that he and Song are put in a cell together to confront him with the, quote, truth, that Song is biologically and genetically a male. But for Gallimard, Song is still the person with whom he has experienced his ideal woman. Gallimard concludes, I'm a man who loved a woman created by a man. Everything else falls short. But Song replies, so you never loved me, only when I was playing a part? And this is too much for Gallimard's sanity. He expresses aloud, as only one can in an opera, one's inner thoughts, even one's unconscious process. He asserts, tonight I've finally learned to tell fantasy from reality, and knowing the difference, I choose fantasy. Let's ask, what's the fantasy would he choose? And now that we are in the realm of the unconscious, what does opera insight have to offer us by way of understanding the opera's dramatic finale? You might think he wants to maintain the fantasy that Song is a woman in face of the evidence that he is not. But I would offer an additional opinion, one that places this opera on a psychological cutting edge. We glimpse not just Gallimard's inner thoughts, memories, and imaginings, but now the unconscious power that is breaking through. He enters a psychotic state. And to understand this state, we need to understand the archetype that has insinuated itself throughout the opera, the anima. Roughly described, the anima is the feminine parts of a man that are repressed in service to the man's masculine identity. And women have a corresponding archetype. In their unconscious, it's called the animus. Gallimard at first identified with Pinkerton, the confident, demanding, arrogant male. His attraction to Song's Madame Butterfly, humble and submissive, is the projection of his anima. I emphasize, this is all happening in the unconscious. And remember, we all have these unconscious archetypes. It's just that in the archetypal world, when it takes a person over, we are in a state of extreme stress, like being incarcerated for espionage and betrayed by love. Then the unconscious anima of Gallimard takes over. He regresses into that realm. And in delusion, he does not just imagine, he becomes. He transforms himself. He takes on the identity of Madame Butterfly. Like her, he determines, you must die with honor if you cannot live with honor. A direct quote from Puccini's opera. He thought he was Pinkerton, the callous Western male, the dominating aggressor of a vulnerable Oriental woman, but he gave up the vision of his identity and identified instead with his own anima, the humble, demure, and submissive female butterfly. His delusion? To stab himself as Butterfly. You remember that hint earlier in the presentation reflected in Wangro's musical reversal? Well, here's the reason. It anticipates in the music Gallimard's reversal from Pinkerton into Butterfly. It is the metamorphosis of the central image of the opera. And to make the reversal complete, in Gallimard's somewhat psychotic psyche, Song, still dressed as a man, enters in the closing lines with Puccini's opera, just as Pinkerton utters, Song exclaims, butterfly, 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 and the reversal is complete. For today, our butterfly is M Butterfly. I hope you enjoy this opera, both for its beauty and its window into the human psyche. It is a powerful conclusion to the last production of Santa Fe Opera's festival season. But it also concludes the last episode of Opera Insight 2022. I hope as we've explored the archetypal world, we've experienced something. And that experience is that opera is not merely entertainment, but it is the experience. And we in the audience, we're not just spectators, we are actual participants. And we participate by allowing the opera to activate in each one of us the personal lessons it has to teach. Well, I hope to see you here next year in Opera Insight 2023. But better yet, hope to see you at a live performance at Santa Fe Opera. Thank you.